What's going on, everybody? It's YG coming at you with a brand new video, and today I'm bringing you guys another replay video, and this time I wanted to go over the Melodius cards coming out of Legacy of Destruction. Melodius is an archetype that came out way back in Duelist Alliance to coincide with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 anime. They're used by Yuzu Haragi, I think her name is, in the sub, but Konami's actually done something shocking and taken what was basically just a pack filler archetype, like most archetypes from Arc 5 were for the most part, and actually made them a solid contending deck coming out of Legacy of Destruction, and they managed to do so with just a handful of new cards. This included giving them a whole set of pendulum scales, which, I mean, it's an Arc 5 archetype, of course it has to get its own pendulum scales, being Refrain the Melodious Songstress and Couplet the Melodious Songstress. Refrain on summon adds a Melodious monster from deck to hand, and Couplet allows you, if it's added to hand, to reveal it to special a 4-lore Melodious from hand or graveyard, not itself, keep that in mind. And both of them have the monster effect that if a Melodious fusion monster is special to your field while it's in your extra deck, you can place it back in your pendulum scale. This is really good with their pendulum effects, but with Refrain being you can target a Melodious fusion you control, send a Melodious monster from deck to grave, and make it gain attack equal to the monster's level times 200, and especially Couplet, allowing you to add a Melodious spell or trap from deck to hand. Refrain's effect is definitely a little bit more niche depending on like what you want to put in your graveyard just for a little bit of setup, but Couplets is amazing to search for the Melodious Concerto that came out with the wave, which I will mention now. It's basically a polymerization, but it lets you use your scales as well, which is really good at triggering their effects to place them back in the scale, and also if a Melodious fusion is sent to grave while it's in grave, you can place it on the bottom and draw a card. Amazing recursion, allows you to draw into further non-engine or even extenders. Really love the card overall, and those being the only new cards for the main deck. For the rest of the Melodious, you have Sonata the Melodious Diva, who is an inherent summon if you control a Melodious monster that gives them all 500 attack and defense, or all fairies I should say. And then we also have Cannon, who's the same thing, but it's an activated effect and a hard once per turn for some reason. That also allows you to change a Melodious monster's battle position. This seems kind of niche, but it really works with a lot of their effects because a lot of them summon in defense for some reason, so I mean, it lets you fix that problem, I guess. But at the end of the day, these are both just really good extenders, and Sonata actually helps a lot at making all your Melodious monsters beat sticks, which you will notice is one of their main gimmicks alongside their protection. We've also got Soprano the Melodious Songstress, who on special summon adds a Melodious from grave to hand, and that is a hard once per turn, but as a soft once per turn, which you'll see a bunch of soft once per turns throughout the archetype. You can fusion summon a Melodious from your extra deck using monsters you control, including this card. This card is usually a very key part in your combos, especially if you're not playing the Tam Tam Fusion sub package, and this will help you do a lot of comboing, which is nice, especially because now they have fusions that actually function as starter cards and end board pieces. Aria the Melodious Diva prevents your Melodious monsters from being targeted by card effects or destroyed by battle, which is amazing in combination with Elegy the Melodious Diva, which prevents special summon Melodious from being destroyed by card effects, and gives all fairies 300 attack. You can probably drop the ratio of Arias down if you really want to like just 1 or 2. I just really like having a bunch of like the low level monsters that I can normal summon and then have an extender for, but you can always cut the numbers down to fit more room for non-engine. And then we get to the Melodious Maestras, 1 Mozarta, 1 Shapina. Mozarta lets you special a light fairy from hand, Shapina adds 1 from grave to hand. Both these are soft ones per turn and have some pretty harsh locks, but you usually don't care because the Melodious archetype actually functions now. Shapina is definitely the most important of the two. You can probably cut Mozarta if you really want to. You just need to play at least 1 because Maestras are required for your fusions. For non-Melodious monsters, we're on a bunch of hand traps you can see, but we're also playing 3 Saki Tama. This isn't like a mandatory engine, but I thought it was really cute because it's a light fairy that you can use to go into your really important Link monster as an extender, but it doesn't special summon, so it ignores all the locks of cards like, not Ostinato, but First Movement Solo. Plus, at the end of the day, even if you don't need it, you can always just use it as discard fodder. As I mentioned, we have a bunch of space for non-engine. We could have more if I cut some things, but for now, I'm on 3 Herald of the Orange Light, thanks to the follower that actually recommended this card to me. I always forget it exists. Really great at stopping really powerful cards like Ash against this deck, or even cards like Dimension Shifter. Also an additional layer of disruption when you're going first. And then we have Ash and Bell, which are pretty solid, and for the rest of the non-engine, I'm also playing Talents and Called By. On some of the most important cards in the deck, we have Ostinato and First Movement Solo that both require you to control no monsters, which is really annoying because they're both really strong cards, with Ostinato essentially being a branded fusion that during the end phase nukes the monster and then refusions the materials back, and then First Movement Solo is simply just an emergency teleport for a 4 or lower Melodious. So if you couldn't tell, Ostinato is easily the most important of the two, especially especially because it's not a hard once per turn, which is really crazy, but you can easily use First Movement Solo as a one-card combo starter regardless, and also to prevent things like Ash Blossom if you open both of them, you can use this as a really solid bait. That is it for the main deck. Onto the extra deck, we have two of the brand new boss monster Flowering Etoile, the Melodius Grand Choir. It requires a Melodius Maestra and two Melodius monsters. That, as a quick effect, allows you to banish any number of Melodius monsters you control until the end phase, then you can non-target return up to that many face-up cards your opponent controls to the hand. Also, if this face-up fusion summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special a Melodius monster from main or extra deck. So this is, of course, your win con and the most important card in the extra deck. It is non-targeting disruption that also helps your girls dodge things like spot removal and negation, cards like Imperm and stuff. She's got really beefy 2800 attack and also has a sticky floating effect, which is super strong because you have some pretty solid disruptions in your extra deck even ignoring her, and she can easily win you games, especially alongside the protection that the other Melodius cards give if you just time your disruptions properly. We're also on 3 Baka the Melodius Maestra. She is also a new fusion. She just requires 2 Melodius, so she's easily the least specific one, and that's really cool because she is a starter card. She says your Melodius fusion monster's activated effects cannot be negated while you control this fusion summon card, and you can only use each of her effects once per turn. On Special Summon, remember Special Summon, period, not just on Fusion Summon, you can special a Melodius monster from your deck, and if it's sent to the graveyard, you can target a Melodius in your grave and special it in defense position. Easily the best card to go into off Ostinato, or if you're starting off with Soprano in order to fuse. Super easy to summon, gets so many plays going by summoning cards like Refrain directly from your deck, and I love that it just says it's sent to the graveyard, period, meaning that if you're going against for some reason like a Dogmatica opponent and they force you to send, you can just get free advantage, which is really cool. We also have 2 Schuberta the Melodius Maestra. She's basically a triple DD Crow that gains 200 attack for each, and she also has very generic materials, and also it's a soft once per turn technically because once while it's face up in the field. So really powerful, especially in combination with Flowering Etoile, because remember, Flowering Etoile is similar to SP Little Knight. She's also really good against SP, but she's similar to that in the sense that she resets cards like Baron, for example, after they're banished, so you can easily reset Schuberta and use her effect again, which is really great, especially going into formats like the next one, where we have a lot of graveyard-focused effects. Bloom Prima requires a Melodius Maestra and 1 or more Melodius monsters. She gains 300 attack for each fusion material used for its summon, and it can make a second attack each battle phase, and if it's sent to the graveyard after being fusion summoned, you can target a Melodius in grave and add it to hand. Prima essentially functions as a game ender, one of like the couple that you have. Really cool because you can make her really, really big, especially in combination with Elegy and Sonata, and she can be really good at outing boards. Finally, for the fusions, Bloom Diva is essentially a Recital Starling. It can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, so you take no battle damage for attacks involving it, and if it battles a special summon monster after damage calc, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the difference between the monster's original attack and this card, and if you do destroy that opponent's monster. So actually, I guess it's more like a Yubel, for example, like with all the protection and stuff. She's not like a super important win con or thing to sit on anymore like it used to be for Melodius. It was basically like you sat on this plus Aria plus Elegy if you could, and that was kind of all you could do. But now she's kind of like an afterthought, even if she is decent. And now onto one of the main cards that can make this deck function, period. It is Bloom Harmonis, the Melodius Composer. This came out in Duel Overload with all of those insane Vrains Pack Link support cards. It's a Link 2 that requires just 2 fairies that says on Link Summon you can discard 1 card, special summon 2 Melodius monsters at different levels from your deck to its zones in defense position. Also, if your Melodius monster this card points to attacks, it has the Armades effect so your opponent can't use any effects. It literally just starts setting up all of your plays. You can make this so easily with just a starter or a starter and extender, for example, like normal summoning Arya and then normal summoning Sakitama as well. And for the cost of a discard, you get access to literally any Melodius monsters you want, and that can include things like Refrain or Couplet to get your Pendulum Scale set, because yes, shockingly, you actually do Pendulum Summon in this deck. It's really important. You can summon Soprano to get your Fusion Summon and to get the bounce back from grave to hand. You can summon your Protection Girls to get them on board early. Seriously, this card is just ridiculous and one of the biggest choke points in the deck. And even though we are locked into lights or fairies or light fairies or Melodius or etc. most of the time, we are playing some more generic ones, and well, okay, this one is a light fairy, but this is Protector of the Agent's Moon. TLDR, you contribute a fairy to target card your opponent controls and destroy it. You don't care about the other effects. Just some decent removal. It's a card that actually played back in like Trickstar Runic back in the day, which is pretty funny. And then of course we are playing SP and Typhon because might as well. Some cards you could play, Prosperity is definitely what I've been looking into. I completely forgot Prosperity was actually not bad in this deck, especially because you are playing mostly Melodius stuff in the extra deck, and so you can easily fit Prosperity in here, something I want to experiment with in the future. Tam Tam the Melodius Diva I actually did play. It says if it's special summon while you control Melodius, you can add a polymerization from deck or grave to hand, and if it's sent to grave as fusion material for a summon, you can target Melodius you control. It loses 500 attack, and then it burns your opponent for 500. So it's a pretty funny time card. Honestly, I'd probably play it if I was playing Melodius IRL on the side, but it was also really good to grab Fusion Substitute, because you can use it for an additional way to dig for resources or just loop it multiple times, because this is a soft once per turn. But honestly, Soprano and Ostinato will do more than enough than you actually need. So Tam Tam just ends up being a brick a lot of the time because she only works on special summon. And then also Score the Melodius Diva is a list I saw someone else play, which is basically like an honest but weird, and you don't really need it in my opinion. Well, that's going to do it for the deck list. Sorry if I sped through it a little too fast, but it's not like this is a Sleeper Sunday or anything. If I actually decide to build this deck IRL and, you know, First Movement Solo gets a reprint, because $8 for a super rare is crazy, I'll probably go into a lot more detail then. But for now, let's go ahead and try to get some games going. Alright, we got a game against Ike CP. Honestly, might be a play on ICP, like Insane Clown Posse. That's pretty funny. And wow. Okay, it looks like our hand is really bad. Oh my god. We have 2 hand traps though, so hopefully that should be enough, honestly. Depends on what they're playing though, to be fair. If they're playing like Snake Eyes or something, this might not be enough, and then I'll actually cry. We just need like an extender off the top deck, like a Sonata or a Cannon or a Sakitama or an Ostinato or a First Movement Solo. And that is a 1-for-1. See, they could be playing anything though, but considering they're playing Droll, I don't know. I know a lot of Snake Eyes players are cutting Droll because they like to search on the opponent's turns, so... Yeah, okay, wow, it actually is Snake Eye. Alright, so we're activating Divine Temple. We're going to place probably an Ash in the Spell and Trap zone. Wow. That's actually really funny. I didn't really think the first match would be Snake Eye and that our hand would be so bad. Oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. But considering they had to use the 1-for-1 and then activate the Divine Temple, yeah, okay, I figured their hand wasn't that great, and oh my god, hopefully this goes through. That'll be nuts. And it doesn't look like they have an Ash Blossom. Awesome. Alright, let's go ahead and go straight into a Baka, and it's actually been quite a while since I played this deck now that I think about it. Ooh, this could be bad. Let's go Shapina, probably, and I think I'll also send the Elegy from the deck to the grave. Let's go ahead and summon our Baka the Melodius Maestra here, using her effect on summon to special a Melodius monster from the deck, hopefully. This is going to special the Ash from their scale, which is perfectly fine by me. I don't really have too much of a problem with that. They could get a little bit of setup, but we might be able to kill them this turn. This deck can be very, very aggressive when it wants to be. Let's go ahead and special our Refrain the Melodius Songstress. Activating her effect, they'll be able to use Snake Eye Ash, probably add Poplar, special Poplar, add the original, something like that, but honestly, I think I'm going to Ash this here. I don't want them to get any setup, period, if I can help it. So let's go ahead and use the Refrain. I think here I'm going to add Couplet, because it's going to trigger the effect of Couplet to special the Aria from my hand. And that's going to give them a little bit of protection, but to be fair, this is mostly just to get the Link fodder. What do they have to respond with here, actually, is my question. Because it definitely says they have a hand trap. But I think here, let's go ahead... I'm going to activate the Couplet in the scale first before I do anything else. Because I'm a little nervous now seeing that they actually have something. Huh. Neither of these do anything right now, right? Weird. Okay, so let's activate our Couplet here in order to search for a Melodius Concerto. That's the only card you can search off this, by the way. They have one other target and it's bad. I think it's like a really bad trap card. So let's go ahead and use Couplet here to add Melodius Concerto. Bada bing, bada boom. And then I think straight up here, I'm going to turn possibly... Do I want to use the Refrain, or do I want to... I have to use the Aria, because I summoned it in the middle zone, which is honestly a goof on my part. But I think I'll probably use the Refrain here to go into Bloom Harmonis, triggering the effect of Bloom Harmonis. I'm just going to pitch the Ghost Spell. I don't think I'll need it here. It shows them that I had it, though, which is pretty funny. Rub it in a little bit. Let's see if this will go off, question mark. They definitely don't have an Ash unless they had a Ignore Chain, because they would have Ashed. Okay, they have an Effect Veiler. All right. Honestly, I think we're fine because of the Melodius Concerto. Yeah, I think we're totally fine, actually. All right, sorry, I had to disappear for just a second there for a little bit of a cut because my dog kept trying to break into my room. So let's activate our Melodius Concerto. This should be able to help us push really aggressively here. Do I want to go for a Flowering Atoll, though? Or do I want to go for a Bloom Prima? I think we can go for the Flowering Etoile and just go ahead, just use the couplets, the Baka, and the Aria. I'm gonna just put it right here. And then this is going to trigger a few different effects. We're going to activate our Baka in order to target probably the Shapina here. Yeah, let's go ahead and summon the Shapina here. And then let's go ahead and trigger both our couplet and our refrain to put them back in the scale, which is going to be really, really good for us. Let's see what they have to respond with here, because they already used an Effect Veiler, so they must have like another Effect Veiler or something in hand. That's probably fine, honestly. I don't think that's a super big deal. Let's go ahead and reset our scales, and then let's go ahead and summon our Shapina. And then this will allow us to use our Shapina effect in order to add from grave to hand. You know what's funny? We actually can't even use Shapina here. That's actually hilarious. So the reason we can't is we actually straight up can't use it because we used the Ash this turn, which is hilarious. But I'm going to go ahead and banish the Shapina here to just get it out of the way. Right now, I don't want to look at it. And then I'm going to go battle phase here. I think we're just going to have a Twal punch into the Ash, and then I'm going to punch directly with the Bloom Harmonist. It's not going to be like the most insane thing ever, but it can be better than nothing. So let's go ahead and punch over the Ash, punch for 1,000. I don't know why EDO has been so laggy lately when it comes to the battle phase. Nothing else we can really go into, so I think I'm going to straight up go to the end phase, and then move Shapina over to this side of the field. And I think we might just have it here. So they have one card left in hand that I think is like another Effect Veiler or something. So I think it depends on just whatever they top deck, but Flowering Etoile can bounce up to 3 face-up cards they control to the hand, which could just be insane. Not to mention we have Refrain and Couplet both for follow-up, as well as Melodius Concerto, which is huge. Alright, it looks like they just put a dot in chat. I'm not sure how much more they can do here. Like I said, it really depends on their top deck. They'll have to see like a Diabell Star or an Ash or a Bonfire or something, but again, 3 bounces on Flowering Etoile, as well as dodging things to prevent me from losing my entire board if they have a breaker, is just really, really good. And I think this might be wraps for them. Alright, so they're activating Fire King Island here just straight up. Okay. So yeah, they definitely have to have something like a Veiler in hand that they can try to dig for. But I think I'm just going to use the Flowering Etoile in order to banish the Shapina temporarily to bounce the Fire King Island back to the hand. It is a hard once per turn, so they can't activate it again and use the effect a second time. So I think we're chilling, honestly. I don't think they know that. Yeah. Okay, so they're going to end up scooping. It was actually the Fire King build, which I found interesting. I genuinely thought it was pure, but I'm going to take that as a big W, even though my hand kind of sucked. All right, we have a match against Coquette, I think that is. I'm not sure. But we finally win a Rock, Paper, Scissors here, and we open a pretty solid hand. Having both Refrain and Couplet already is interesting, but I'm just going to straight up start by normal summoning Refrain and activating the effect to attempt to search. Let's go ahead and grab... We already have the Couplet, like I said, which is kind of interesting. So I think I might grab another Sonata just in case, because Sonata is really solid, because it's not a hard once per turn to special summon. So let's go ahead and do that, seeing if I get Drolled here. I am, in fact, getting Drolled here. But honestly, that's perfectly fine, for the most part at least, because this deck doesn't so much care about Droll, really. I'm going to go ahead and activate my Couplet, probably, yeah. Just go ahead and put that there, just to have it. And next, I'm going to link the Sonata and the Refrain into a Bloom Harmonist, the Melodius Composer. Using her effect, I'm going to discard probably Cannon, just get her out of the way, don't really need it too much. And I'm going to summon Soprano, as well as probably Shapina, right? Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and summon Shapina. Using the effect of Soprano, I'm going to add the Sonata back from my graveyard to my hand, which is going to be good. That way I can just have that little bit of extra extension. And I'm also probably going to use the Shapina to add back the Cannon. I might as well. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Add back the Cannon from grave, and then now I can shift her. And now I'm going to activate the effect of Soprano in order to Fusion Summon. And I'm going to probably go into Baka here. I mean, I might as well, but at the same time, I don't have another way to really access a Fusion Summon if I do that. So I might straight up just go into a Flowering Etoile and then special, like, 2 monsters to my board. That might just be enough. I think I might end up doing that, yeah. Let's go ahead and do that. If I was playing, like, well, actually, no, not really too much I can say. I could have just went, like, Baka to summon another Soprano or whatever, but I don't really think that's too big of a deal. Let's go ahead and activate Refrain here in order to place it back into the scale. There we go. And then we can go ahead and special probably, like, Cannon, and then we can special Sonata. We could Pendulum Summon here, by the way, but we really don't need to. And let's just continue to special summon our bodies on board, and just really juice up our monsters. Look at that, 3,000 defense on that cannon, 3,800 attack on that Flowering Etoile, really, really cool. And I think I might as well go ahead and use the effect of Refrain here in order to dump from the deck. Let's go ahead and dump probably just the Elegy in order to prevent bricking on it later. And I think after there I'm going to pass turn. We have up to 4 non-target bounces off the Flowering Etoile, as well as having Ghost Spell for an additional disruption, so let's see how we fare here. Alright, so they start by normal summoning Diviner of the Herald, and this is pretty interesting, because I actually just played against Voiceless, so if this is another Voiceless, it's going to be kind of funny, not gonna lie. So, let's see, I'm probably going to dump the Trias Hierarchia here. Yep, okay, activating Hierarchia, tributing the Diviner, summon. Yeah, okay. I'm definitely... Yeah, I mean, hitting that with a bell doesn't really do much, to be honest, because it's already tributing the Diviner, so... Yeah, I might as well just let it go through. It's not like the Hierarchia itself does anything as well. Alright, so here's where I'm going to use my Flowering Etoile. I'm going to use it banishing probably itself, as well as... I suppose I'll get rid of both of my Sonatas in order to bounce the entire board. And this is going to be really, really good, because that's putting a bunch of, like, random shit in their hand on top of negating the effect of the barrier. And the barrier is a hard once per turn, which is really, really good for me. Alright, it looks like we're using Prosperity to dig here, actually. So I'm assuming we're going to be trying to find a Saphira here, because Saphira feels like the main thing that would be able to save them. But we also have to remember we have a Ghost Bell. So there's definitely some things we can do to stop them. Okay, there's a pre-prep. That's really, really good for them. Yeah, there's the pre-preparation of rights. Did you know this card can add from deck or graveyard? That's pretty nuts. And bada bing, bada Ghost Bell. Alright, so they actually did already have the Ritual spell. Okay, that's interesting. Tributing the Low. I forgot Low can actually be used as like the entire tribute, right? And that's going to summon itself back from grave, as well as having Saravis on board. So Saravis is going to be a monster, summon, negate, and banish. Low is going to just be chilling there, honestly, really. But then the barrier is going to give protection, which is going to be really, really good. And then this says, if a light ritual leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can banish it to float into one of the other rituals from the deck, which is kind of scary, honestly. And so we do lose our cannon here, but remember during the end phase, all of our girls that we banished are going to come back. And that is massive. So that is really, really good. Drawing Ostinato here, not so good. But we're going to activate the effect of Couplet here to add our Melodius Concerto, which is really, really good. And then I think this only triggers if it leaves by card effect. So I think what I might do is I might use the Flowering Etoile in order to clear my board. I don't know yet. I don't know. I think maybe... Yeah, fuck it, honestly. I don't think we really have to worry too much. Let's go ahead and use the Flowering Etoile in order to clear my entire board, and I'm going to bounce everything on their field to the hand. This is going to get rid of the protection, it's going to get rid of the Low, and it's going to make the Saravis only be a targeting negate, which I'm perfectly fine with. This does trigger the effect of the Ritual spell, so this can summon the Skull Guardian directly from the deck. Saphira Queen of the Dragons is the old one, right? It doesn't really do anything too crazy. Yeah, they're going to go for the Skull Guardian, and Skull Guardian actually... Oh, it's only on Ritual Summon. Okay. I was wondering if it was going to trigger there, but now my board is clear, so I can activate Ostinato, which is huge. So I'm going to use this to go into Baka the Melodious Maestra. I'm probably just going to use the Mozarta ? As well as... let's go ahead and put an Aria in our grave here. And let's just summon our Baka 2 over here, triggering her effect in order to special summon a Melodious monster from the deck. I'm going to special summon another Refrain, because I'm going to use this Refrain to add another Couplet, and then use that Couplet to special from the graveyard. Where is my Couplet? There she is. Activating her effect in my hand in order to reveal and special it, or not special it, sorry, special another one from my graveyard. I'm going to special summon Soprano here, and I'm going to use the effect of Soprano to add back from grave to hand. I think I'll probably add back the cannon. Next up, I'm going to use the Soprano. Actually, I might just use the cannon. Yeah, I'm going to special... God, I keep putting the things in the wrong zone. You have to remember that you have to summon to the zones if you want to use the Link monster. But do we need the Link monster is the real question? I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and use... use... Let's just go ahead and use Soprano here. I think I'm going to make a Bloom Prima. Yeah, let's go ahead and use these for a Bloom Prima. Bada bing, bada boom. Triggering the effect of Baka, I'm going to probably summon a Shapina here, which is really good. And then remember, like I said, Cannon's effect is kind of niche, but it's actually not bad at all, because you can special summon that here, and then use the effect of Cannon in order to swap these Shapina's battle position. But I was about to say, I think we're about to get hit with a Nib here, yeah. Okay, honestly, I'm fine with this, because I still have Extension, which is crazy. So, unfortunately, this isn't a fairy, so I can't really use it for anything like that. But Bloom Prima does trigger here, and we get to add back another monster from grave to hand. And I think I'm going to add back Shapina, so I can Pendulum Summon it off of my scales, which is really good. Speaking of Pendulum Summon here, I might as well do that now. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's summon a Refrain from the extra deck, Shapina from hand, and Couplet from hand. So let's go ahead and summon Refrain over here, just to have her on board for an extra body. And then I'm going to put Shapina over here, and I'm going to summon Couplet over here. It doesn't really matter too much where I summon her. But I'm going to use the effect of Shapina here. I'm going to add back... We don't have any of our Sonatas there, so I might just grab back Cannon, not gonna lie, just to have that extra extender. Yeah, let's go ahead and add back Cannon here. Bada bing, bada boom. Actually, having him as an extender doesn't really matter if I go for Bloom Harmonist here. Yeah, let's go ahead and summon Bloom Harmonist, using her effect discarding the Cannon to special 2 Melodius monsters from the deck, which is going to be insane. Now we can summon our Sonata. She's going to give a nice stat boost to our Melodius monsters. We don't get Soprano's effect to add back from grave to hand again, but we do get the effect to fusion summon, which is awesome. And I think, do I want to make Schuberta just to get rid of some graveyard stuff? I think I want to make Schuberta just to get rid of some graveyard stuff, and she has really generic materials, which is cool. So let's go ahead and make our Schuberta here, and I'm going to activate the Schuberta, banishing from the opponent's graveyard. Let's get rid of that Skull Guardian, as well as that Diviner, and I suppose pre-preparation of Rites, because Saravis is going to shuffle it back into the deck otherwise. We also have Refrain effect to make the Schuberta even bigger. This time, let's just go ahead and dump a Couplet just to get some nice boost there. And then I'm going to use Melodius Concerto to fusion summon again. Unfortunately, Flowering Etoile is a hard once per turn on the bounce, so we can't do anything crazy there. But we can make another Schuberta, which is really, really good, and we don't really have to neg for it, because our scales are just going to place themselves right back onto the board, which is awesome. Let's go ahead and use a Couplet as well as a Refrain, of course. I'm going to use Schuberta again. I'm going to banish the last 2 cards from my opponent's graveyard, and I suppose I'll just banish a Ghost Bell here. Doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to get the Schuberta as big as possible. And I think here we just go straight into battle phase, swinging with Schuberta over the Nibiru. I don't really think they have anything else here that can really affect me too much. Triggering the effect of Concerto, which is really, really good. And then, ooh, Herald of Orange Light, that's not bad. And then I'm going to swing for 4,000 with this Schuberta here, which is crazy, as well as 1,000 off this Bloom Harmonist, and then also 2,300 off Shapina. Really, really big. They do have low as well as the continuous spell and Saravis in hand, which is going to be a little annoying for the follow-up there. And just to make room for my girls again, I'm going to link this Bloom Harmonist and this Shapina into another Bloom Harmonist. And then I think I'm just going to go straight into end phase here. Boom, boom, and boom. Look how big that Schuberta is, and this Flowering Etoile is really, really crazy. Alright, so they're activating the, of course, not ritual spell, the continuous spell here. They're probably going to use the effect to attempt to search. I might just straight up use the Flowering Etoile. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Schuberta. This is going to reset her effect later, which is really cool. So again, they do still have low in hand, they have that still in hand now, and then they have the Saravis in hand. I'm just a little bit worried overall about what they can do, because their top deck could have been something really, really good. Not to mention, this is going to get them access to the Continuous Trap, right? Unless they're playing the new cards already. No, okay. So they're going to go for the Continuous Trap. This shuffles a Light Ritual from hand, or Ritual Spell, sorry, from hand or grave into the deck to add to hand or special a Voiceless from deck. This can be really good to get access to the Saravis from deck, which they're probably going to do. Yeah, okay. So they're going to return the Saravis in their hand. Oh no, they're probably going to get Saphira. Yeah, Saphira is really nuts. Yeah, okay, there's Saphira, Dragon Queen of the Voiceless Voice. You know what's really funny? They're jumping through all these hoops right now, and they will have a negate for Flowering Atoll's effect if they decide to punch over her with the Skull Guardian. But do they have an out for the Nib token other than exactly the trap? Because I think that's really funny. Yeah, it looks like they're going to be punching over the Flowering Atoll here. I'm going to attempt to trigger the effect in order to summon from main or extra deck, but they are very likely going to be using Skull Guardian to negate here. Yeah, they can use it during the damage step because it does negate activation, which is pretty sad, but not really the end of the world. I do have to be a little bit careful because they can... Actually, I don't know. They actually can't even use the Saravis here because they have to have 2 engraved. And, oh my god, they're actually turning that into a Typhon? Very interesting. Is this how they're outing the Nib token? That is really funny. Okay, so they actually did find a way to out the Nib token. I think that's really funny. But we do have follow-up with the couplet searching for another Melodius Concerto if they don't have to shotgun their trap card here. And we don't really care too much. But remember, we do have our Shuberta again, which is awesome. Sakitama, really good for negating and destroying things, but I don't think we have to worry about that too much. But I'm going to go ahead and shotgun Couplet here straight off the bat, try to force them to use the trap card early, otherwise they're going to be in for a very bad time. Well, actually, no, they can't because they don't even have a thing on board. I had to think about that. So I think we kind of just win here, question mark. I'm going to go ahead and use Concerto here, see what I can do. I can't use Shuberta because unfortunately the Sonatas are actually making her too big right now. I might just go into another Flowering Atoll. I do have to get rid of my Shuberta there, though, if I do that. So I'll probably just end up going into a Baka here. Yeah, let's go ahead and go into a Baka. Bada bing, bada boom. And that does lower Shuberta's stats back down. Let's go ahead and use the effect of Baka here in order to attempt to special summon from the deck. I have to be very careful because, again, they do probably have ways to get access to another thing to make the trap card live again. Alright, so they're actually using the effect to shuffle... Oh, actually... That's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to shotgun this here. I'm just going to get rid of everything in their graveyard. I was actually thinking they'd have a way to ritual summon on my turn or get a ritual body on board to use the second effect for removal, and that's what I was worried about, and they just straight up lost connection. Awesome. Definitely love seeing the Rage DCs. That was a really good game. Well, y'all, I think that's all the time that I have for today to show you all my Melodius replays. Only 2 compared to the 3 I usually try to do in these kinds of videos, but that last one was pretty long. I think a lot of this was a little bit carried by some hand traps at points, but to be fair, that comes into a lot of play when it comes to deck building. But overall, I really want to test out more with this deck, especially if it becomes more affordable in the TCG. Again, we'll probably have to see a lot of reprints come out like OTS or side sets because this archetype's kind of old at this point. It's been over 10 years since Duelist Alliance, y'all. But I think this has some really mad potential, especially if it gets like 1 or 2 more cards down the line, and if we can get a pro player to try piloting it. Again, I do want to test out with cards like Pot of Prosperity. I saw some people messing around with it, and I, again, completely forgot that that was actually a pretty solid option. I just have to play around the lack of battle damage, quote-unquote, but I think it's honestly pretty worth it. But I definitely will be experimenting more with this deck in the future. But with that being said, that's going to do it for the video. If you liked it, please sure to leave a like, as it helps put this video and the channel into the YouTube recommended. And if you realize content or something like the rest of my replay videos, then perhaps consider subscribing, because we're going to 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. Not to mention, it supports the channel or anything else, and it's absolutely free. Also, be sure to hit that notification bell to keep up to date with awesome Yu-Gi-Oh content from this channel. Also, if you want to support me directly while getting some awesome TCG merchandise in the process, check out Tapio cards in the link down below. Use code Aurora5 for 5% off your purchase at checkout, and to support me financially. They finally got their Matsuri and their kit deck boxes in, which is really exciting. Super happy to get my own kit deck box from them. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.